Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy good morning. Happy good afternoon. Happy good evening. I can use English language today, wherever you're coming from. Happy end of June. Oh my gosh, it's about to be real hot up in here. Hope y'all are ready. And welcome to the next episode of the Pixelmo webinar series. And today's offering of the power of process, streamlining employee onboarding with the Power Platform. As always, my name is Michael Wells. I am the customer success manager here at CreoSpark, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all here today to another fine episode of the Pixelmo webinar series. We have a great topic today, an even greater speaker today, and an even greater group of people who have joined us today, and that's all of you. Appreciate y'all being here. If we can go to the next slide, please. We've got a lot going on today, so I'm going to move some of this pretty quickly. As you can see, we've got the agenda up on the screen. We're going to go through some introductions and some housekeeping stuff in just a little bit. We're going to go through the impacts of onboarding and offboarding. We're going to talk about how to accelerate your process with the Power Platform, talking about how to empower employees, strengthen security. We've got a demo, and then, of course, as always, we save time at the end for Q&A. So yeah, that's a little bit of what our day is going to look like today. So let's actually start with that housekeeping before we jump into introductions. Questions. I'm sure you're going to have questions. We love questions. Throw them our way. If you've got questions, add them into the questions panel that is available to you all throughout the webinar. If you are on the browser version, it should be a little chat bubble with a question mark. If you are in the desktop version of GoToWebinar, it's a little pop out. You can put your questions in there. I'll be following along. I'll make sure your questions get to our speaker today. Make sure we get those answered. If we can't answer them right in the moment of when you ask your question, like I said before, we do save that time at the end of the session to make sure we get your questions answered today, so you don't have to wait and you can get that fancy knowledge to do with whatever as you please. We've also got a couple handouts that are going to be happening at the end of the session, so check out the handouts panel that is available to you as well. We'll have a couple things that we're going to drop in at the end of the session today. And then we do record these sessions and we do send them out. We do our best to send them out the next week, so keep an eye out for that. You'll get an email when it is ready. Finally, we do have a survey that we do ask you guys to fill out. It takes 2 minutes just to let us know what you thought of the webinar, how you're feeling about the information that was put out there. You know, we are a culture of constant improvement. We want to make sure we're giving you the best product we can. So we would appreciate your feedback there. And then just a little bit about who we are. We are the Pixelmo webinar series, brought to you by the fine folks at CreoSpark and sponsored by the letter M and the number 365, because that's what we are all about. We are all about planning, designing, developing, and maintaining those beautiful and expertly architected employee experiences that you've come to know and love by working with the folks at CreoSpark. And we do that through holistic and humanized digital workspaces, powered by, as I said, Microsoft 365. We've got headquarters in a couple places. We're coming in from Davis, California, which is where I'm coming from right now. We've also got our other headquarters in Toronto, which is where our sister company is and where our speaker is from. So you'll get it from both headquarters today. Love to see that. And we are here to create that Microsoft magic with you from all over the place. Now, as we usually do, we like to start our sessions off with a poll. Just get an idea of what you're looking to learn today. You know, you're obviously here because you were interested based on the topic and the session description, but we want to just dive a little bit deeper and give you an opportunity to answer a question, have a little fun with us. So I'm going to get a poll launch on screen. It's going to pop up on your screen. Please give us your answers. What tools do you currently use for onboarding and offboarding right now? Emails, forms, and Excel, an HR system, maybe something that isn't those, maybe none of those, maybe a poll to push people into the deep end and see how it goes. Any of those are options here today. Let us know what you're doing with your onboarding system right now. We want to know. We're curious to see how you're handling all that onboarding and offboarding. It can be tricky. It can be a little confusing at times. There's a lot of ways to do it. And we just want to get an idea of what you all are feeling, how what you're doing. Loving the answers that are coming in so far. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I give you guys about 10 more seconds to answer that, answer our question, to put your thoughts into the poll we've got up on there. No wrong answers necessarily. We just want to see what you guys are doing and where you're at. All right, great. I love it. Thank you so much to everybody who shared with that. Let me get the results up so you guys can see it. So 71% said emails, forms, or Excel. 5% said they have an HR system that they use. 10% said other. 10% said none. And 5% of you are my best friends and set a poll to push people into the deep end and see how it goes. Appreciate you guys contributing to this poll. Very interesting to see how this all goes. I'd love to hear what some of the other systems are that you're using for onboarding as we go throughout the day. All right. Well, with that, let's get to enough of me blabbering on. Let's get to our speaker today. He is a Microsoft MVP, one of 3 we have here on staff. He is our Chief Technical Officer here at CryoSpark. He is one of the co-founders of CryoSpark. He basically is CryoSpark. His name is Noorez Khamis. Noorez Khamis, how you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad. Michael, yourself?
Doing great. Excited to have another episode of the Pixel Webinar series under our belts, and this is going to be a great topic today. I'm excited for it.
Perfect. Exciting. Exciting to see the poll show that most people are still using emails and forums for onboarding. So hopefully today's session can help optimize some of that.
Absolutely.
Great. So as Michael said, my name is Noorez Khamis. I am CTO here at CryoSpark, and one of our practices here at CryoSpark is process transformation. And today's session is all about process transformation when it comes to onboarding. I'm a Microsoft 365 MVP and also a trainer and conference speaker. And you can see my information up there if you want to reach out to me. So let's get going for today's session. So onboarding is a critical aspect for every organization. If it's not done right, then your employees are going to have that poor experience and a poor first impression at your company. But so much happens within the onboarding process. Things your new employee sees and things they don't see, things that happen in the back end. And all of this impacts the overall employee experience, whether it's for your newly onboarded employee or for all the people involved in the onboarding process. People like your HR and recruiting teams to facilitate the conversations needed from the new employee. Your manager is getting acquainted with the new employee and setting up the initial onboarding tasks for their new employee. Directors and executives approving employee requisitions and onboarding the employee as well. We have admin and facilities team to get things like security badges, IT to order laptops, set up accounts in the various systems that are needed, setting up the person's user profile, getting approvals to the digital teams, and access to the teams or groups or whatever systems they need access to. So there's a lot that goes on there under the covers. So let's talk a little bit about the impacts of onboarding and offboarding here. Good onboarding is so important for every organization. It not only fosters that sense of belonging and connection right away for the new employee, it helps the new employee integrate into that organizational culture and gives them a strong sense of belonging, which in turn improves the employee morale and encourages collaboration and teamwork within the new work environment. This will benefit the new employee as well as existing employees, as it gives a good relationship and allows for everybody's productivity to increase. Good onboarding programs provide new employees with the necessary knowledge and skills they need to succeed in their new roles they're taking on. And good onboarding programs empower employees to feel confident and capable. This in turn leads to increased job satisfaction, increased employee engagement, and this confidence is key, especially with new employees, to ensure low turnover, which we're all experiencing nowadays. And this can show up as things like building relationships with colleagues, attending social and networking events, seeking mentorship. We want our new employees to do all of this, and embracing new communication channels like Teams, like Yammer, like Viva, and email, right, with all the rest of the people at your organization. But we need to not only look at onboarding from providing that great employee emotional experience, but we also need to consider optimizing the simple behind the scenes experiences on the technical side that contributes to the overall employee experience for that onboarded employee, as well as everyone that's involved in the process. Thinking about that from a technical onboarding aspect will not only save your manager, your leadership, HR, and IT teams their time, and it will help the organization save money, but it will also help your newly onboarded employee be productive right away. It will also provide that digital asset security required that your employee and your organization needed. We're going to focus today's session on some easy ways you can provide a great employee experience for all of these users that we just talked about by employing some of the tools and services you probably already have at your fingertips within Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform. So let's talk a little bit about the Power Platform and how you can accelerate your process with the Power Platform. I'm going to start from scratch here because I don't know how many people are brand new to the Power Platform. But the Microsoft Power Platform is bigger than the sum of its parts. We have Power BI, where you can do things like create these beautiful dashboards and analyze your data and get some amazing insights into your organization. We have Power Apps, where you can create these beautiful looking pixel perfect canvas apps that are targeted towards being developed by citizen developers. Or you could start with a model first and develop these apps where you create a table in Dataverse first, and the app is pretty much created for you. We have Power Automate, which allows you to do that workflow automation that your organization needs, whether that's integrating with a different system, whether it's monitoring for changes, whether that's approvals, whether that's entering data somewhere, whether that's uploading a document to SharePoint or OneDrive or anywhere in the Microsoft or non-Microsoft ecosystem. Power Automate can do it all, on top of the robotics process automation capabilities that Power Automate gives you, where you can pass off some of those mundane tasks that you're doing manually and just have a robot do it. We have Power Virtual Agents, where you're creating these natural language chatbots in a really, really easy manner. And then Power Pages, where you're building these really powerful websites, whether they're authenticated for your end users or unauthenticated for anonymous users on public-facing websites. And you think about the Power Platform as that end-to-end platform for low-code and rapid development for Microsoft 365, for Dynamics 365, built on Azure, or your own app development or customization and your own business apps and data. Now, at the bottom there, the Power Platform is premised on those three foundational components. We have Dataverse, which really distinguishes the Power Platform from other low-code tools that are out there in the market. It's this powerful cloud-based database where you're just, instead of entering your data in tables in Excel, all you're entering your data are tables in the cloud. So if you know how to use Excel, you're going to know how to use Dataverse and create your columns and rows. So everything, that's kind of what distinguishes the Power Platform from other low-code platforms. And all of the services are really premised on Dataverse. Data connectors allow you to really connect to any data source. Now, there's a lot of connectors that Microsoft provides for first-party Microsoft services, whether it's SharePoint or OneDrive or Teams. Say you want to pop up a message in a conversation, but they're also non-Microsoft connectors like MailChimp, SAP, OpenText, you name it, Workday, Salesforce. There's all these connectors where you can tie in and integrate all of your Power Apps and Power Automate and virtual agents to the data that's stored in those other systems and take action upon it. Now, if though the connector does not exist for you, then you can always build one. And if you have an on-premise system, you can connect to it, whether it's an on-premise application with a SQL Server database or not, you're able to connect to it. And the last one is going to become more important more than ever, especially with everything that's going on the AI evolution, especially with ChatGPT. There's this concept of AI Builder, which is bringing the power of artificial intelligence to the hands of you, the subject matter expert, the business analyst, the strategic analyst, and the power user. And what AI Builder does, it allows you to actually connect your Power Apps and your Power Automate workflows to be able to take advantage of things that usually we used to have a developer take care of. Things like extracting stuff from invoices, sentiment analysis. Calling ChatGPT is going to be another one that's coming out from AI Builder. So there's a ton of different templates that are out there that you're able to take advantage of in your workflows, in your apps. Now, let's take a step back because there are probably some people that are new to the Power Platform and talk about some use cases and some challenges and solutions and the different types of services, what you would use within the Power Platform. So here's the first challenge. Our application developers can't keep up. We're missing opportunities. There's so many types of applications we need to build. So what's the solution in the Power Platform you would use for that? You would use Power Apps for that heavy lift. and let your developers add real value rather than writing the lines of repetitive code. So you can have a citizen developer or a power user create the Power App and let the developers focus on more of the advanced concepts. Now, the next challenge is I want our chatbots to improve customer service and satisfaction, but our current enterprise-wide chatbots have limited capability and take ages to code. This is where you would use the Power Platform technology called Power Virtual Agents, and that allows you to rapidly build out these bots with these complex conversational AI and automation capabilities while allowing you to call workflows as well to get data from any different system. The next challenge is I want a smooth, highly automated digital business process that doesn't require manual work or scanning or inputting. And this is where you would use Power Automate to deploy this intelligent automation and boost your organizational productivity. Next challenge is I want a self-service website that can easily change and often to accommodate these microsites that I need across my organization and to be able to optimize them all the time to connect to my business data. And this is where Power Pages solves this. Now, anyone can build websites without having to worry about the adherence to brand guidelines, the governance, the security, and you could connect to your data, whether it's in Dynamics 365, SharePoint, or Databricks, or any other system, and expose it on your websites really, really easily, and also invoke Power Automate workflows as part of it as well. Now, the last one, I'm sure everybody can guess, it's the only one we haven't covered, but this one, I need business intelligence and I need to embed it in my apps, but I also need to keep my costs low. Because of all this collation, cleaning, and cross-referencing data, the fact that it's too expensive and time-consuming. So this is where Power BI comes to the rescue, which is that low-code analytics platform that offers this AI-based, advanced, secureable, and actionable insights. So these are some real-life challenges that you could use the different services within the Power Platform. And today's session centers around some of these. We're going to be talking about how Power Apps, Power Automate can work together to help you with some of your automation needs on top of some other services. Now, let's talk about how we need to empower our employees when it comes to onboarding. And a well-designed and onboarding process really accelerates the learning curve for your new employees. By quickly acquiring essential information and understanding everybody's roles and the new employee's role, they can start contributing to the organization's goals sooner. All new employees want to make that positive impact in their new roles. And we don't want to hinder this progress by allowing them to get started on the wrong foot. So standardizing our onboarding process really improves new hire productivity by 50%. And there's some really cool and easy ways we can optimize the whole onboarding process. And some of them are, for example, automatically connect new employees with essential first day resources, such as team members, connecting with other team members, showing them the policies, getting them access to the handbooks right away. Also, you're able to automatically set employees up with the email that they need on their corporate side. You need to set them up in teams to be a part of their department team and also introduce them with the people they're going to be chatting with on a daily basis. We want to be able to automatically send them their corporate credentials on the first day because there's a Microsoft 365 account that's created manually, usually by users. We're going to show you in a bit how you can automate that. You're able to automatically add users to Microsoft Teams as well. So if you have different teams that you need your user to be part of, so for example, if they join the HR team, you want them to automatically have access to the Microsoft team that's designated for HR and have the appropriate security. You also might want to have them have access to distribution lists and groups that they should be a part of, or Yammer communities, or Viva Engage communities. You also want to send them their onboarding tasks so that they know what they need to do the first day they're there. So this is some examples where we can enhance productivity through onboarding on the from a technical perspective. And successful onboarding can help all of your employees save time from a day-to-day perspective. Using an onboarding, offboarding framework with automated processes really allows HR and IT to spend less time setting up new hires. The onboarding process for small to mid-level firms can usually take up to 10 days, from everything from getting your laptops, your mobile phones, getting your access, your security, getting access to the right teams, your credentials, you name it, right? So by automating the resources and tools, this time can be shortened, leaving more space for forming relationships with the new hires and integrating them into the company culture and getting them productive faster so your organization can make more profit. That's what we're all there for, right? So onboarding should also strengthen the security through automation. Okay? So automated onboarding and offboard processes help ensure consistent application of security protocols, and automatically removing all data and system access when you need to do it, or adding it when somebody is onboarding. It also prevents departed employees from accessing sensitive data. So if you have an automated process, maybe it takes a while to turn off their access to all the different systems and their logins and passwords. By automating that, you reduce the risk of things like unauthorized access, data breaches, and also, most important, safeguards on the organization's sensitive and IP data. Okay? From a Microsoft 365 technical perspective, you can do things like create the Microsoft 365 Active Directory or Azure Active Directory accounts automatically and add them to Microsoft 365. You're able to add users to Microsoft 365 groups, distribution groups, different shared mailboxes or Azure groups automatically. From a security perspective, you can automatically set conditional access for where they're living at. So you might maybe want to, if they're living overseas, you want to make sure that that particular location has conditional access for that location so that they can access it from anywhere else to avoid any breaches. You can have it automatically set up the multi-factor authentication. And then lastly, you can set their access level to the types of sensitive content they're allowed to view. For example, if an executive is being onboarded, you want them to have access to top secret stuff. And there's some automation you can do on the information governance side. Now, Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform really work great for onboarding tasks. And this is going to set us up for the demo that I'm going to be doing now. So we're going to use a combination of services you probably already have in your Microsoft 365 subscription. So whether you're in small business, business premium, E1, E3, E5, whatever subscription you have, you probably have access to a lot of these items, a lot of these services already. And the core ones that are on the Power Platform side that you see that we've already talked about are Power Automate and Power Apps. But I'm going to show you a scenario where we're using all of these different services from an onboarding perspective. So first, we use Microsoft Forms to gather information about the new employee that's being onboarded. Remember, this new employee does not have a corporate account or corporate credentials and a login and password. So what we did in our solution that I'm going to demo is create an anonymous Microsoft form. It's still secure, it's anonymous, but it submits their personal information in a secured manner to our internal systems. And our internal systems that we use are using data sources of either SharePoint or Databricks, okay? So when they enter the information from a Microsoft form, we call a Power Automate that goes and enters their data in SharePoint or Databricks. And then we kick off a Power Automate workflow. And the Power Automate workflow does things like it creates the Microsoft 365 account, it goes through approvals, it adds the users to the various groups they need to be a part of based on their department, based on their role. If they're a full-time employee or a student or contract, they need to have different access. So you're doing all that via Power Automate, via these conditional statements. You can create accounts to other systems if you need. We can automatically send them their username and password that was automatically generated via when we created the new account, because when they filled out that Microsoft form, we got their personal email address. We collected that to be able to send that out. We're able to also assign tasks to the departments for things like, setting up a new security card for facilities, You can also assign a department, your IT, to go order a laptop or a new mobile phones. Like there, all these different automations happen where you're notifying the departments that need to take actions on this. And those could be either by emails, where we're using Microsoft Outlook. They could be by messages, where we're doing notifications and collaboration using Microsoft Teams. They could be tasks that are set for all the users using Microsoft Planner or Microsoft To Do, or they could be simply integrating with the other system. We can also do integration with HRIS systems that you might already have and adding to other data sources. And lastly, from a Power Automate perspective, you're able to identify the persona of that user you're onboarding so that they might have different tasks based on who they are. So if they're an executive, they might have access to a different set of groups than like a student would, right? So you're able to identify those different personas and take different actions in Power Automate. Now, on the Power App side, you're able to create these applications, these Power applications, to be able to do things once they're onboarded to the application, onboarded to your organization. So in the scenario that I'm going to show you I'm going to show you a Power App where we're going to maintain the user's personal and corporate information afterwards. So HR or the user can maintain the information. So for example, if my last name has changed or my department has changed or anything like that, I don't want to go and open a ticket to IT to do all this all the time. I want to be able to do it myself. So this is an example of what we're going to show you on the Power App side, what we've developed for our clients. So I'm going to take you through a demo right now of some of these capabilities we just talked about. So the first thing I'm going to show you is our onboarding new employee hire form. So this is just a Microsoft form. And if you're not familiar with Microsoft forms, you probably have it already as part of your Microsoft 365 subscription. So here you see under the app launcher, we've got Microsoft Forms. And if you've never used Microsoft Forms before, it's a really, really simple program where you're just creating the forms in the manner you want. And there's a whole bunch of different options you have there. And you can also create quizzes and such from the forms. So this Microsoft form, when we're onboarding our new employee, what we're doing is we are asking them for some of their personal information. I'm going to take you through some of the information we ask, but it's pretty similar for most organizations. What's your first name? What's your last name? Preferred name? What's your full address? What's your social security or social information number? What's your cell phone, your personal email address, because we want to send you your login and password automation. Do you have any allergies? Because sometimes we have dinners together. You know, what's your gender, shirt size? Because sometimes we send out swag and some t-shirts. And then date of birth, and then you can go next to different things we ask from a personal perspective. And this is, you get the idea, this is kind of the form, and it works great on mobile as well as your computer. Okay, so depending on where the user gets it initially, HR will send a link to this form out, and then that's where kind of the workflow kicks off. Okay. So now once this form is submitted by the onboarded user, what we're doing is we're actually entering that data into a SharePoint list. And for this, in this scenario, I'm just showing you in a SharePoint list, but for most of our enterprise clients, we use Dataverse as the data source because it's a much more better data source than using SharePoint, but you can use SharePoint. It is a free data source, whereas Dataverse is a paid one. But in this case, I'm showing you an example of SharePoint. So those same information, what I asked for, are just columns in our list. So we've got our first name, last name, full name, all of this information that we see here that we're collecting for the user, emergency contact, what's the shirt size, you know, what's the type of employment? Are they a full-time? What department are they in? Who their manager is, right? And we're able to get things like manager because as part of that Power Automate workflow, that once you submit the Microsoft form, there's a workflow element that where HR goes into the form and inputs the manager, and some of the information based on the department will be automatically calculated. So that's kind of an example of the data source, and we're using SharePoint where that data is set. Now, on top of that, we also have, as part of that Power Automate workflow, a kind of set of security groups that we add the users to. So based on a new hire, and based on their department, and based on their role, you can see here, this is like what we call our matrix. And based on this matrix and what department they're in, then they're going to be added to a Microsoft 365 group or a distribution group. So this is kind of a matrix where you're looking up what teams, what groups, what distribution, what shared mailboxes they should be a part of. So that's kind of another list which interacts with our Power Automate workflow. Now, a lot of this stuff happens behind the scenes. You don't really see it because it's all happening within that Power Automate workflow. So here's an example that I'm going to actually show you of what one of those workflows or a few of those workflows look like. So what we're looking at here is Power Automate, and most of you might not know already. You might have Power Automate already from your app launcher, and Power Automate is right here. So if you go to your app launcher, if you go to office.com and you go to your app launcher, you'll see Power Automate and Microsoft Forms. In fact, you might even see Power Apps if your IT folks have given you that. As you can see, I have full control and I see a lot of stuff that's available in my organization. So this is the workflow. This is a really cool workflow because it tells you the run history. It tells you all the connections you're using, whether they're Microsoft connections or not Microsoft connections. It could be SAP, Salesforce, Workday, MailChimp, Box. It could be your on-premise connection. It could be a custom connector you create. So, and it allows you to connect to it using your authenticated credentials, or it allows you to put it in. It shows you the owners here. It shows you the run history, what happened to it. And it shows you when it was created. You have the ability to see analytics on it. And this is kind of what a Power Automate flow, but let's go deeper into the Power Automate flow itself, okay? And I just want to show you the interface of how easy it is to start building these flows. This one's a little bit more of a complex one, but you could start building these flows from these templates on the left-hand side. There's really nice templates that already exist where you could start building your flows. In our case, we wanted to kick off the flow when a response was submitted from the Microsoft form. And all we're doing is giving the form ID. We're doing some parsing on some variables there, and we're getting some information. And this is where we add that information from the form into our SharePoint list. Then there's an approval that has to happen from HR. HR has to go, or IT has to go and do an approval once somebody is requested to be onboarded, to be able to input some more information. There's some conditions that happen there. We want to update the item to be approved or rejected, because sometimes we might reject it as an executive, right? So the executive gets prompted in Microsoft Teams and their email. And then what we do is we actually go and loop through all the approvals that are out there and update the SharePoint list to say that that person's being approved with some information. Okay, so this is a Power Automate flow, which basically interacts with that data source we talked about. Now, the next Power Automate flow I'm going to show you is actually a Power Automate where it actually goes and creates the account in your Azure Active Directory. Because why do we need our IT administrators to manually go and create these accounts in our Active Directory or Azure Active Directory when there's an automation within Power Automate that does this? So this is the automation that does this. So this goes and parses some information from what was submitted and does it on a nightly basis, gets the information from the SharePoint form and the SharePoint list. It goes and passes all the information. And then what it does is it goes and loops through, because we have different companies at our organization, and based on the company, in this case, it's CreoSpark, it's going to go and create the user in Active Directory. Okay, so this is the actual action that's connected to Active Directory to do that. And it does stuff like apply the manager, go look it up, and get approval. It prompts for this information from the manager in Teams. It assigns tasks. It does a lot of stuff in this workflow. I'm not going to go through all the stuff, but you get the idea. It's almost unlimited possibilities as to your workflow and your business process. Okay. So now the next thing I wanted to show you as part of this process is the onboarding. So this is kind of our offboarding list. So just the same as our onboarding, we have a form where HR or a manager will fill out where somebody has to be offboarded. And sometimes it is required, and then this needs to happen right away, right? So why, if somebody needs to be offboarded right away in the middle of a night or a certain time, you don't need to go and call help desk or call IT or go into Azure Active Directory, go disable their account, change their password. Why should you have to do that when you can do an automation? So we built that same type of form, but then we kind of put a workflow around that to be able to disable the account. And the data source for this is in Microsoft SharePoint or Dataverse. So you can see the status of that user is disabled. And this workflow, same type of thing, is a nice workflow that you can build in Power Automate Flow to be able to go and offboard the user. So the actual action that happens is that all we're doing is calling the AD action of that user to be able to set the account to be disabled. And there's another step to send an email and send a Teams message for approval, as well as change the password. We also do that as well when somebody's offboarded and remove them from all the groups. So there's a lot of cool things that we have on the automation side. The next thing I wanted to show you was the last part is that once the user is onboarded, we may want to maintain them. And this is where, from a end user perspective, don't forget that it's not only about the onboarded employee experience, it's about the HR, IT, it's optimizing everybody's time. We're all in meetings, we're all have so many tasks. So the better the automation, the more the automation we have, we can concentrate on the things that matter to us and the organization and let us actually have more time ourselves because we're all really busy. This is where automation really helps. So once a user is in the system, we want to be able to maintain them. And this is where we created this Power App. This Power App, and I'm going to log in as administrator. And what I'm going to do is this Power App we created, and I'm going to quickly search my name. And I'm able to find my name here, and I'm able to see my status, what department I'm in, my title, my employee type, my date of birth, my email, full name, but then I can edit it as well. And if I'm an end user, I can go here as well, because what we do is we allow our employees to edit some of these fields so they automatically get updated in our Azure Active Directory and our Active Directory and our HRIS, because there's a workflow behind the scenes that does that as well. So if I go and edit my properties here, you could see on this, these are all stuff that me, if I was in the HR department, I want to do this myself. I don't want to call IT up to go and do this. I want to be able to do this, and this is what the purpose of this user profile app is. I can update things like pronoun and first name and display name and date of birth. Whether my account's enabled, I can disable a user directly from here and offboard them if I needed to do that as an HR person. I have my information, my job title, my hire date, what department I'm in, right? So you select from your departments that are coming from your Active Directory. What's the employee type? Is it a full-time employee, a student, a contractor? What is the contact information of the person? What groups are they part of? What other groups are they part of? What subscriptions do they have on the licensing side? What group mailboxes are they a part of, right? So you're able to do all this stuff from this app, okay? So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. And to recap, what we just showed you from a demo perspective is that we're able to show you kind of the end-to-end onboarding and offboarding tasks. We started with a Microsoft form, which we sent to the user that we're onboarding. When we send that user to onboard, they entered their personal information as part of that Microsoft form, where we gathered the information and we got their personal email address. And when that form was submitted, we actually we stored the data in SharePoint or Dataverse. Okay, so we took that personal data, we stored it in SharePoint and Dataverse. Then what we did was invoke a Power Automate workflow. Okay, so this Power Automate workflow was invoked to do all this stuff that you see here, okay? So it created Microsoft 365 account, it added to groups, it created accounts in other system, it sent out the username and password to the user, it sent out the employee handbook, it assigned tasks to the user, being onboarded to the department as well, because departments also have onboarding tasks for people they're onboarding. It integrated with our HRIS, it added to other data sources, and it was all dependent on the role in the department of the user for the different persona that was being onboarded. Okay. Now on top of that, we also invoked Power Automate flows to prompt users in Microsoft Teams for approvals, right? So we did that. So why would you send an email when you could prompt by tools? But on top of that, we did send emails. We used that connector, and we assigned tasks as well using Power Automate. And then lastly, and we also use Dataverse as part of this. You could use one or the other out of these two, right? And then lastly, we had a Power App we created where we maintain the user's personal information afterwards to make it easier for HR to update the person's information themselves. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that. You saw how you could use the power of the Power Platform to be able to leverage onboarding processing and optimize them. So Michael, I'm going to pass it back off to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rez. A wonderful session as expected. Sorry, let's get my camera back on there. Wonderful session as expected, guys. Onboarding can be super tricky. It can be a lot of things, but I think with the Power Platform, it becomes monumentally easier to get people on, off, however you're doing your onboarding stuff. It's just a great way to go. Rez mentioned some resources. I'm going to drop those into the it's called the handouts section of the panel. We got a couple things coming in there for you. Some links that we I'm going to do one at a time. That would make sense. One of these is kind of a list of links that you guys can take a look at, check out some of the stuff that we're talking about here, and then we've got another one as well. It's just really about how we use the Power Platform and all that fun stuff. So I'll get those in for you guys in just a second. There we go. Great. Those should be up for you guys to grab. All right. We mentioned a survey earlier in the webinar in my intro. So here's your opportunity right now. Follow that link, follow that QR code, and fill out that survey for us. Again, it's all about just getting that feedback, that understanding of what you liked, what you didn't like, things maybe you want to see next time we do a webinar, maybe topics you want to see next time we do a webinar. That's what we're looking to get right now from you guys. So please fill that out. And if you do, you get entered in for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card. We do those quarterly, I believe now. So we're doing our next one in September or around there. So please enter and fill out that survey, enter to win, and you could win that $50 Amazon gift card in September. Just something to think about there. We want to hear from you. All right. Well, at this time, we're going to move into some Q&A, and we actually have a question that came in. So Rez, for you, can automation assign Microsoft licenses? Good question.
Yeah, that's actually part of the demo that that's part of our workflow. I just didn't go into that step. So usually when we're doing onboarding solutions, we actually add people to Microsoft 365 groups or Azure Active Directory groups. And as part of when you add people to a group, you can assign licensing to that group. So that's usually how we recommend doing it instead of adding licensing to each user. In the Power App that I showed you at the very end, that very last tab, that actually assigns individual licensing as well. So you're able to assign individual licensing.
Excellent. Great question. Great question that came in. If there are any other questions that came in, let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you guys have any questions there. Yeah, let's give you guys a couple minutes to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to talk a little bit about our next session. We're going to be diving into a topic that is near and dear to our hearts, and that's Power Virtual Agents. We do actually do a lot of we do a lot of sessions on Power Virtual Agents, but I'm excited to bring this topic to the Pixelmo webinar series. It is what I'm finding is a really important piece of the makeup of the Microsoft, of the Power Platform menu, so to speak. We do some of these app in a day sessions through Microsoft as well, but yeah, I'm excited to bring in here. It's all about getting those chatbots in place, setting them up correctly, utilizing them to the best to the best of their ability to help you move along your business and any way you're trying to do it. We've got some great use cases for that as well. We've got a lot of fun stuff that we're going to do with that. So I hope you guys will join us next month. I believe it's the 27th of July. It's always the last Thursday of the month here when we join you guys. Hey, as I was talking about that, we have another question that came in. So let's get that going. Is Power Pages a distinct license, or is it a part of some other license? I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I like when Rez tells it. So Rez, I'll leave it to you.
So Power Pages is its own set of licensing apart from Power Apps. There's actually, I'll see if I can post a resource of the link which kind of says it. It's based on the number of sessions and whether it's authenticated or not. And it's kind of separate from Power Apps and the rest of licensing. Power Apps licensing is either a per user or per user per month for unlimited workflows, or per user per workflow per month, and same with Power Automate and Power Apps. They have the same licenses. However, if you have a Power Apps license and your content, you're calling it Power Automate flow, then you don't need the extra Power Automate, and Power Pages is its own separate set of licensing. And same with Power Virtual Agents.
Yeah, and I'm glad someone mentioned Power Pages. I'm a big advocate. I think Power Pages is going to be really awesome. So I'm glad we're talking about that as well. And we have another question that came in. I'm interested in more employment onboarding capabilities. Will you be doing a Viva webinar on that? That is a great question. That'd be a great topic. Let us. We don't have that currently planned at the moment, but that's a good topic. Let me take that back. Well, maybe we'll work that into our schedule. So thank you for bringing that one up. Great idea. Love that. All right. Any other questions for our speaker about anything with onboarding, anything like that? Not seeing any questions come in. All right. So then with that, hey, we're all wrapped up. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you had fun learning about onboarding and offboarding and the magic of the Power Platform and how you can cover all that with it. We appreciate y'all being here. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Let's start there. Then a great rest of your week. Great rest of your weekend. It's going to be 107 in Davis. So I hope if you're anywhere near that kind of heat, please stay cool. Please stay safe. And we will see you all down the road at the next one. Take it easy, everybody.